let's call the meeting to order. And are we going to record it this evening?
I just pressed record. Yes, I did.
Great. All right, let's do attendance
Yeah, by roll call, Jen Insaldi,
here.
Gary Doherty,
Here.
Kate Fournier,
Here.
Micah Burhart,
Here.
and Darlene is here, but she.
Here.
There she is.
Here.
It's here, yep. Great. All right, we are going to stand by, pledge allegiance to the flag as opposed to salute the flag. I was corrected on that, so I'll follow that up later. Approved minutes from 10/19/20. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving minutes? Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
and Darlene.
I'll abstain since I was not a part of the board on the 19th.
All right. Citizen comments? I can't see anybody, so.
I don't see anybody at this time, nor is there anything in the chat box.
All right, no one's fighting with their mic. Okay, good. All right. Okay, moving on to presentation of school programs and FYI items.
I have nothing under that I'll get to in my report, but
Okay.
Gail?
Same,
Nothing, no.
okay. Old business, the tuition contract. Are we going to cover that under 9A2?
We are.
Okay, so we'll just move on. All right. And you have our representatives already.
We do.
Great, okay. All right, instructional issues, second reading and adoption of policies, BA, school board self-evaluation and goal setting. At this time, I don't know if the other school board members had a chance to read Jerry's email from last evening. And he had spoken about his work that he had done on a pretty extensive document last month. And he sent it out last night for us to review. I would like to ask that we table or not approve the second reading of the self-evaluation and goal setting and actually send Jerry's document back to the policy committee to be worked over, and also to include a schedule with that as well. I'd like to thank Jerry. It's an excellent excellent document, and it covers a lot, everything. So, who's leaving us?
Gail.
Okay.
On the screen, Jen, is the document that Jerry had sent out, but just for the general public, it's pretty extensive. Some of these pieces you do have already, and then others are worth updating and taking a look at. And it's a good process for the board. Thank you, Jerry. You did it. Those are good things for people who haven't been on school boards for ever or for a long time, to just go through and update all those to make them the most appropriate. So,
Jerry, since it's your document, did you have anything you wanted to speak to at that?
No, I think there's a few things that could be tweaked on it. Like the board philosophy, for instance, like that could probably might want to be worked out with Jen, between maybe you and Kevin or Gail, or just for someone to kind of go through that and make sure we're kind of on the right page there. And for some reason, I think I put that in twice for some reason. But the rest of it really is just kind of it's really more of a guideline for board members to use, and new board members to kind of to understand what it means and how to be on the board. And we might want to incorporate some of the other policies that we have on the books already. Like one of the things that needed to be updated though was the use of undesignated fund balance. In our current policy, it says that we actually have to return all of it to the taxpayer. So that's something we might want to update along with the Jackson School Board policy, and maybe incorporate all of it into one Jackson School Board policy when it gets through the policy committee.
Okay. All right, so since it is lengthy and I think we should ask, and maybe Jerry, we could also attend that particular policy committee meeting when we review this, if we're asked as guests to do that. But I would like to do that at this time. So, any other discussion on this? I know we didn't vote on it yet or make a motion, so.
I would like to make a comment. Certainly, it was very timely for me. I printed it out this morning and, tried to go through it, and excellent job, Jerry. A lot of information there. So I certainly would like some extra time to go through that before we approved it.
Right, so Darlene, what we would actually do is we would push this document back to the policy committee and have the
Okay.
policy committee clean it up and add and delete what we feel is appropriate at that time. And then they would bring it back to the board for a first reading. And at that time, we would have a chance to make any other changes that we'd like to. And then it would be here again for a second reading. So it's kind of the
Okay.
process. So right now, we're looking at approving the school board self-evaluation goal setting. This is a similar document, if not the same document as 6A1 on our agenda.
Okay.
So Jerry will guide me through the Robert's Rules portion of this program, as he usually does, and I appreciate. And then we'll move this on. I didn't know if Kate or Micah had anything they wanted to add at this time.
I haven't had a chance to look through it. I really appreciate the work that you did. I haven't had a chance to catch up to it. So I'm excited to table it and be able to talk about it.
Yeah, Jerry, I read through it. Thank you so much. And I'm on the policy committee, so Jen and I will dig into that together, which will be great. And I just appreciate your time and efforts. It looks really good. Thank you.
I don't think we need to make any motions or anything. I think it's just if we're all in agreement, we'll send it to the policy committee to work up.
Okay, and then I think we should, then do we want to vote not to approve the second reading and adoption of policies BA?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't actually do that. I mean, and that could get incorporated into the policy maybe, or added to it later. But I mean, I don't see any reason why we can't actually just adopt that portion of it, because I think we all seem to like that at the last meeting. So I'll make a motion to actually approve on second reading adoption of school board self-evaluation and goal setting.
So you want to approve this one? All right, second. Okay, discussion. So you want to approve the school board self-evaluation as it is right now, and then come back and make changes to it with including your document? As we morph them together perhaps and make other changes?
So Jen, I think this would become official policy, and the other is just that needs to be worked up, and the other would get added to this, I guess, or vice versa, however this works. But the self-evaluation would become part of it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Jen, I think
we'll have
Kevin's
something
trying
on
to
the
say something.
record. Oh,
So
Kevin?
Jen, in looking at Jerry's document here,
Mhm.
these may be separate. Some of these may be pulled out as separate policies, like non-discrimination. You'll have a specific policy for non-discrimination. So some of these will be put together, but others will have to be separate policies. So I think Jerry's point is well taken, that you have a policy set up, and that's a good policy.
Okay. All right, so then we'll vote on adopting second reading and adoption of policies BA, school board self-evaluation and goal setting. We already have two motions, so we'll just do a roll call.
Jen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Jerry?
Kate,
Oh, he's mic'd.
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
and Darlene.
Yes.
Great. All right. Consider personnel actions, 7A, accept resignation of Gloria Brennan
I'll make a motion to accept with regret the resignation of Gloria Brennan.
I can second with regret.
Okay. All in favor?
Jen,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
and Darlene.
Yes.
All right. So Gail, you're now able to post the position if you haven't already. Where'd you go?
There we go. I have posted it already, and I'm also networking, and I would ask you folks to do the same. A little networking with anybody you know who might be qualified and interested would be great. Thank you.
Great. What is the pay per day?
There's a whole, you have policies on the
I know.
substitute, so it goes per day for the, maybe Kevin should explain this, but there's a set period of time where they're sub pay, and then it goes eventually to their per diem rate based on their experience.
All right.
So it's $85 a day for the first 10 days, $125 a day from day 11 to day 20, and then day 21, the minimum it would be is $208 a day or around there, depending upon, I have to take a look, but it'd be around 200 and some odd dollars a day.
All right. Just for conversation, ballpark figures. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Business affairs, the budget status report. Anybody have any questions on the budget report? No, good there. I signed the manifest, so we're good there. All right. All right, moving on to superintendent. Here we go. Kevin?
The first thing we have is the Cooperative School District Planning Committee, and I have Darlene and Jerry who are representing. Was there a third person that was?
Jessica.
Jessica, that's right, Jessica, okay. And yeah, no, that list will go to SAU 13. And Jack Waldron from Tamworth was kind of the ad hoc person to say that he would be organizing that. So we'll get those names down there for all the different districts, and then we'll try and set something up for the first organizational meeting.
Great. Thank you.
COVID-19 update. Obviously, you're getting emails here and there. Good news, bad news piece. You know, we had been running about every 2 weeks a case. The good news is that none of the cases were related to each other. They were kind of isolated incidences. Over the weekend, we did have an outside organization that impacted our students. So better part of Saturday and Sunday was spent trying to identify. There were no Jackson students involved with that, no Bartlett students. But you know, some of these things, they do force larger quarantine groups, and we are cautious about it, but it does definitely make a difference. I know that up north, when you get up over on the other side of the Notch, Colebrook, Berlin, Gorham, those districts were hit extremely hard over the past month or so. You know, I keep an eye on those metrics just about every single day. It has definitely gone up in Mount Washington Valley. We do meet with the local medical community as well. I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 7:15, and we'll review the local numbers. You know, they aren't seeing huge upticks they didn't as of last week. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but you know, the good news is that when the kids are in school, they're following all the procedures and protocols related to it. The hard part is what happens after the 6 hours that we're in school, and that seems to be the big thing, right? So you know, there are a lot of conversations out there. I know that perhaps even the Jackson board, I shared it with the SA9 board, talk about going remote for a period of time. I'm not in favor of that, but Jackson would have to make that call. I think that keeping our students in our schools is extremely important to helping mitigate or slow down the spread. We do know that when people are getting tested, they're getting tested quite a bit. My fear is that if we go remote, people still have to work. People still have to provide childcare in multiple settings. And right now, the numbers aren't dictating that. That being said, we do know that more and more people are being quarantined. So one of the factors that we have to take into consideration is staff absenteeism, student absenteeism. It's okay when a full cohort goes out because the teacher goes out with them. It becomes a little bit more tricky and a little bit more stress on the system when you have individuals that are having to quarantine for different reasons. But trust me when I say we are looking at this all the time. And kudos to the parents who are doing all of the things that they are supposed to be doing. I hope that people take, Thanksgiving break seriously. My fear is that when we do go out for a period of time, that it'll be more difficult to come back simply because until we have testing on site, I know, Mikey, you brought that to our attention. There are conversations about getting some rapid tests up here. We don't have that ability yet, nor the resources coming up to do that. But that is something that we do talk about quite frequently. So that's the COVID-19 update. And if you have questions, I'll talk about two more things and then open it up to any questions that you folks have of me. Remote Instruction Day. So we have talked about and really decided that 1 day a month is greatly needed for a number of different reasons. For students to attend remotely. Part of it is at the elementary schools, people felt like, with the absence of meeting face-to-face, in the conversations, having the time to conference with parents and students is extremely important. The other part is providing some relief to the staff they're working, overtime all the time, and to provide some relief so that they can spend some time for planning and preparation, either collaboratively or as a school or across grade level. So building in that time, and 1 day a month, it'll be a Friday, that we would like to move that forward. I don't know if the Jackson board wants to take an official vote on that one way or another, but my recommendation is to follow through with that one remote instruction day. And when I didn't hear any big concerns, I told Gail we want to move that forward. So there is a day. The first day is November 20th, but we'll take some guidance on that. And then the last thing I just want to update you on is what's called the New Hampshire Department of Education did release some funds. It's called the Supplemental Public School Response Fund. And what they've done is they've given $200 per student to the districts. And Jackson received $16,200. You didn't receive a whole lot of CARES money prior to this, so this will help out. The one catch is you have to have it spent and in place and operational, no matter what it is, by December 30th. So you folks have, Gloria Brennan, for example, was paid for as a result of trying to support distance learning as well as face-to-face. So that could be an opportunity. Lily, myself, Katie we'll talk with Gail. You've done some technology upgrades. So that money will be spent, I promise you that. And we'll look to hopefully secure even more money moving forward. But Jackson School District did get $16,000 to help offset some of the costs related to COVID-19. So other than that, that is my report, but if you have questions of me, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Kevin, I had a question. What's your impression? So from the governor to you, to the five of us, to the greater SAU board, as cases continue to develop, and they will, and accelerate above, New Hampshire's 145% more cases over 2 weeks ago. What's your impression of who makes that call? Is it ultimately going to be up to the five of us? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be the governor? What's your impression?
So my impression is the governor nor the Department of Education will make that call. That's not going to be, there are going to be times where I'm going to make the call because I have to make the call, whether that's for 3 days or for 5 days, right? So, for example, if Gail all of a sudden has 3 staff members that are out or have to quarantine, we may have to go remote simply because we don't have enough staffing to support face-to-face. It could be that the numbers in Jackson, if there's a cluster in the community of Jackson, knock on wood, you've been very fortunate. It could be that the numbers are, like I said, we look at the number of cases per 100,000. We take a look at the moving averages, right? There are a lot of different metrics that we do take a look at. And Jackson is not there. Neither is Conway at this point. We've been hovering. I'm looking at my numbers that we've started from, August all the way through in what that looks like. So there are a couple different metrics. One is 200 per 100,000 people, right? That's the number of active cases, moving average, and we're at right now about 104. So up in Berlin, in Colebrook, they went from what is the green, which is hardly any cases, to up to 400 per 100,000 people. Their population is much smaller, but that kicked in automatically, right? If we see a cluster at a particular school, so we had Pine Tree Elementary School that was impacted by this outside piece. Well, we know that if you're getting 3 or 4 cases in that school, then that school is probably going to be going to remote right away. Your school's a little bit tricky. So if you have a single case and you can identify where it is, do you have to shut down the entire school and go remote? Probably not, but it may take time. The other part is the contact tracing, right? So we know that if we have a positive case someplace, we're on the phone and we're talking and we're researching and finding out who is exposed, who is a close contact. And that's why you'll see the case at the high school. Normally, it would have been 20 students, but that one particular day or those 2 days, instead of 2 transitions in a day, they had 4 because they were switching classes. So the kids actually had 4 exposures instead of 2. So, I typically will reach out to the board chair. I'll work with Gail. But if ultimately you want to make the call, I put the heat on me. I have no problem. That's what you hire me to do. But, and like I said, I have to say, both Dr. Laracy and Dr. Saunders from Saco River Medical Group and from Memorial Hospital, we had Dr. Laracy on our Zoom call for 2 hours Saturday afternoon, helping us go through. All the nurses came in. They're in charge and talked with Department of Health and Human Services. They are right with Dr. Chen. They're with the state folks working with them. Sunday, Dr. Saunders, I was on the phone with in following up with some other pieces that were related to it. So, I don't make the decision unilaterally, but ultimately, if the board doesn't make the decision, I will make those decisions, but it'll be in conjunction with everybody else. I don't know if that answers your question, Kate.
I have a comment. We received or Kate did, something from a parent that's has her children at home. And I thought one of her comments was pretty profound in that she changed the language of how she was addressing it. I'm trying to pull up on my phone, but it won't come up on me. But basically, you know, we talk about distance learning, we talk about remote instruction, and I think that just kind of an awareness for people as to using the same kind of language. I think she kind of felt that she needed to be consistent with what her children were hearing as far as how she was describing their Google Meets and you know, that kind of language. It just kind of struck me as, yeah, we're using a lot of different words to describe what we're doing with our kids at home. So kind of just being awareness of that, then when we're throwing out different terminology that we're kind of, you know, focusing in so everybody kind of understands where we're going with everything. But, you know, I admire the job that you're doing. Certainly, you know, a difficult one to, you know, contact trace and, you know, see who's with whom. And, you know, I think you're doing you know, a good job in this district of trying to keep ahead of that. So my kudos to you on that. All right, that's it for that.
Did we have any other topics? Kate, did you want to talk about anything or anybody else in reference to how we handle Jackson?
Yeah, I had a question because, and Kevin had mentioned it. In the beginning, when we were all making the call to go back to in-person and offering the remote option, there was a discussion about if Jackson had one case, we would go remote. And then we had a coffee chat, Gail, a couple of weeks ago, and it came up that because of what we've learned from the virus and as we've gone through this and what we've learned from Kennett and Conway L and now the other schools that have experienced positive cases, that Gail was of the thinking, and it sounds like Kevin, you are too, that it wouldn't necessarily be necessary to close the Jackson school if there were one case. That meeting, I got a couple of parents reached out and just found that a change in course. I was surprised by the change in course also. But then in talking to other board members, you know, I don't think we made a motion and I don't think that we voted. And so I just want to make sure that whatever our course of action is, it's very clear to our educators in the building and really clear to our parents and families. And so I just think some clarification on that might be really helpful.
And I just might add to what I feel really strongly about is how carefully and closely we're following the cohort rules and not mixing kids, and very few staff members cross into from one class to another. And we're never in close contact with, say, John, the custodian. So we try very, very hard to keep those kids only in their own cohort. We have seating charts for everywhere we are, whether we're outside or inside, so we know exactly who sits where. The students are moving with masks on all the time. So I felt pretty confident that if we had one isolated case, as Kevin said, they might have picked it up somewhere else. And then we can quarantine that classroom, watching it for those 2 weeks during the quarantine period. If it doesn't spread to any of those other students, we can feel pretty confident that that was in fact an isolated incident. Whereas if we had spread throughout the building, then that would make sense to close the school. But as Kevin said, I mean, you're the ultimate decision makers, but I had looked back at the minutes myself because of questions about that for the board meeting. And like you said, it was a discussion, but it was never an actual motion at that point. So we were following CDC and our nurse, Helen. We've contacted her and spoken with her at length about all of those things, the cohorting, the seating charts, and follow-ups, and tightened it up even more so since cases started arising in other schools.
So Kate, I was in agreement with you when we, up until recently that I was under the impression that if Jackson got one case, that Kevin would call school. We had given him kind of that blessing to do that. But now that we've been in active school and Gail and the nurse have seen how the cohorts are going and how they are not intermixing those types of things, I would tend to lean more that I would be more open to saying, okay, depending on who has the case of COVID, not a teacher or something, or Gail, that we do try to go and just have one cohort go remote. So I think Gail definitely has the best interest of the students at heart and the parents. So I tend to lean towards her expertise now that we have seen how the school is going and how things are being monitored and how everything's handled. I would feel more comfortable being able to say, okay, we're just gonna, have this group go quarantine, as opposed to shutting down the school. And I would, again, leave it to Gail or whoever's involved and us to say, depending on who has it, what we decide on.
And then we do the tracing that Kevin talked about in identifying who was in and out of that room and when. When I'm seeing a child for discipline, I'm logging that in my calendar. I was with this child at this time, on this date, just so that we have those records should we ever need to go back to see who's been in close enough contact to be at risk.
It could be bus transportation if students ride the bus. We have to go back and take a look at the logs. If they're participating in outside activities, youth hockey, youth soccer, something along those lines. Now that's really where it gets real tricky, right? And that's where you'll start seeing big numbers of students get quarantined is when they're there. But
and then it's also like looking into like, have we had a flu clinic, and there's outdoor people volunteering and an extra nurse and kids from multi classrooms going into the Whitney and stuff like that. Like, and I think that's the stuff that those are the delicate nuances that I think people get a little bit worried about. But as long as it truly is like everybody who came into contact with that person or those people or whatever it is, I just want to make sure that families are just very clear on what the action is, so that, because when we put that, like Jen, like that kind of like marching orders kind of blessing into place, we were all in a place where, Jackson families were deciding what they were going to do with their children, whether they were going to stay home and remote learn with Kristen, or they were going to go to in-person learning at school. And so as everyone is kind of being tasked to make their decision for the remaining duration of the school year, I think that's really important. Just that parents kind of know, or caregivers, kind of families have the awareness that whatever happens, like this or that may happen. So school may not be closed down. I think it's just important for people to really know.
And I would definitely, and I feel much better being able to say at this point, the confidence that I have in the school and the tracing and their call to action and how quickly they've responded to everything, because we've had some situations come up and they've responded within hours and minutes of getting people quarantined and out of circulation that should be quarantined. And we haven't had an explosive situation in any of the schools with the conditions that we've had. So I feel confident that we can contain it and we can do the tracing and make sure that we're, taking everyone's best health into consideration. So I feel comfortable saying that as we move forward, if you're depending on your child going back to school, that yes, if there is a case, obviously it's per case base, we would really review that and then decide at that point what to do, and to feel comfortable that we can do it with everybody's best interests at heart. So I think that would be good. Anything else on that topic? Are we okay with that? Does anybody feel like we need to make a clear vote on this? Or I don't know how clear we can be, because it really is by case, so. No? So we'll leave it as is. that if
No,
there,
I think it's good to leave as is. I think it's great to keep having board level conversations about it and rechecking in to say, has something shifted? So thanks, Kate, for bringing it up and for everybody's let's continue to have it here so that our community knows that we're paying attention to those decisions and modifying it as we need to.
I just want the parents to feel comfortable sending their kids to school, that should a situation arise, we are handling it to the best of our ability and quickly. So, and to feel comfortable with their students going back to school. Okay. Kevin, did you want to take a moment and just go over, I know the distance learning is different than remote.
And Gail, you can speak a little bit different. So we used the term remote instruction when the district decision was made. We were not offering face-to-face. It was really a decision, either you're in face-to-face or as remote instruction. So when we started looking at this school year in the fall, we looked at two different scenarios still, face-to-face or what we were calling distance learning. So that was a choice that parents had to make, right? So right now you have a group of students who are in distance learning, which is in Jackson. The students are still connected to their classroom teacher and in this school. And then they get all of their instruction online. Now, if we had to make a decision to go remote again, we're using that term remote as everybody is leaving the school and we aren't face to face. Gail can talk a little bit more specifically about what it looks like in Jackson, because each school, the Conways are all treating it one way. Bartlett has a little bit different take on it, and then Jackson has a unique take on it as well. So maybe Gail, you can refresh everybody's mind as to what distance learning is in Jackson.
Right. So there are students that they make up their own cohort. They're taught by teacher Kristen, who was one of our teachers, and they do actually attend some scheduled group lessons, unified arts, etc., with their regular classroom grade level peers via a webcam. However, Kristen provides all the direct instruction in the content areas, math, reading, language arts, that type of thing. She also maintains them as a class amongst themselves where they have a morning meeting together and they do a modified buddy program where the older students work with some of the younger students. So they have a pretty diverse program apart from the regular school, but they also still can participate with their age and grade mates several times during each day for different things, depending on what the day is. When we talk about remote learning, we're talking about the students would have their classroom teacher. Say Margot's class were to go remote, Margot would continue to be their teacher. She would be off site with them, and everyone would be away from the school building. So there wouldn't be any kind of back and forth in that instance, which is which is the same. The remote learning piece is the same as everybody's doing across the district. Our version of distance learning with the interaction with their regular class and being with K to 6th grade peers is what's different from what the other schools are doing. It was about as clear as mud, but
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on?
No, thank you, Gail.
Okay. All right. So Kevin, are you all set?
I am if you are, yes.
All right. Gail?
well, all of that discussion makes me a little nervous about talking about this, but we really wanted to try to offer an ESSC program and a Nordic program. I think I'd like to start, Kevin, with the Nordic program because I think that's probably the easiest one. Emily and Benson and the folks from Ski Touring have offered us a modified program that would not be necessarily after school. It would happen on Mondays. They've been working with Sonia, and so all students would be able to rent skis and boots that they would bring to the school, so they wouldn't be going to the rental shop. And Ski Touring will groom the snowflake fields all in that area. So our kiddos during PE class will don their Nordic gear, go across the street, and they will have Sonia and two volunteers from Ski Touring to provide instruction, mostly in the form of games for all kids at the same time. So there won't be any leveled group, so to speak, providing instruction. The whole class cohort will remain together and ski together and try to support each other and having fun on the snow. The details are kind of spelled out there, the times and so forth. In this case, Sonia will be our Nordic ski coordinator. But Ski Touring has been very generous in terms of they will still loan skate skis and equipment to our older students, and they will offer some after school time trials for those kiddos who would like to sign up for it. However, that won't be a school program. That's a Ski Touring program that's optional. During the week, during PE, every child in Jackson will have the opportunity to ski, even if it's only for an hour each week. Let's see, did I miss anything? Any questions about that?
Nope. That's great.
Can we just say, hi, this is Ellen and Emily. Can you hear us?
Hi.
We're masked because we're in the same room. So yeah, just so that people understand the intent of trying to stick with your cohorts and being within, you know, the school day. I think the big thing is we're really looking to Sonia and actually any of these stuff, the people who would feel comfortable with being there with the kids. I'm committed to being there, but I imagine maybe I stay far back. I mean, I think that's any sort of protocols that we should be aware of, and it would be a staff person from Jackson as well, the youth program coordinator. So the other piece to this is Sonia did ask that would there be a snowshoe option, and we felt that there certainly could be using the school snowshoes. Just again to have that ease of equipment, and I think the biggest thing that Ski Touring wanted to offer was for families to be able to have a seasonal rental option, so there's minimal in and out of Ski Touring picking up. There's a seasonal rental option at $50 for families. They take the skis home, they have them for the whole year. There could certainly be a daily option. We're hoping we've got the skis and the equipment to make this happen. You know, there is a little bit of a first come, first serve aspect, and we're working on putting together. Bike Duflo has been helping us in sort of composing what the letter would be for families, and that all of this information would be on the school website. So, is there anything else?
And
This is Ellen, and we definitely feel confident that there are enough skis so every child we can support this with skis, and we can make sure that there's enough for every Monday that every child would be on skis. And we would do a fitting for the kids who didn't want to rent them for the year. We would do a fitting once in the year, so we would bring over the specific skis and boots that were needed each Monday.
And also just keeping in mind, everyone will be masked. Everyone will be washing in and out, and we are outside the whole time. There won't be, the people from outside the cohorts will not be inside. They'll be out in the field. So there'd be lots of room for spacing and lots of air moving. So we feel like that's pretty safe.
Yeah, if someone falls down, they have to get up on their own.
That's right.
No help from Miss Emily this year.
Emily has a video of how to get up. We have not released that video yet.
I've
We're
needed
trying to provide a little bit more grit to them.
Yeah, they'll have
Oh, yeah.
Question is, are you going to be asking for parent volunteers at all of children that are in specific, like a parent of a cohort member, or no?
Well, I guess that's up to you all. I figure no. And because it's a game scenario, there's not the touring aspect. There's not that much time. In years past, when we have embedded the PE program in, had them come over and get the skis, there is usually not too many parents who have been able to help out. And by doing the game format, you're not having people go off where you really need the parents. But I would assume that you all are not having a lot of volunteers at gym class, are you? Or do you? I don't know.
No, it's usually just an aide and Miss Sonia.
So that comfort level, I guess we leave to you all to decide.
And we could be, I would envision, unless we were invited into the game, that we would be more like, not referees isn't the right word, but we would not be in the mix.
I think it sounds wonderful, and I really want to thank both Ellen and Emily for even attempting this. So, coming
Well,
up
after the last discussion, well, maybe we should.
We don't want the kids to lose a year of skiing.
No, I agree. I think it's phenomenal, and I would like to support it as much as we can. So,
And any guidance, obviously, we're looking to you all in terms of those, recommendations and protocols that you've put into place.
I think you covered all of it that I can see. Until we get it into, you do the first class, something might come up, but I think you really have taken the time to make sure everything's covered. So everything from finance to safety. So.
And we'll be sending home requests to all the families to make sure their children can put on their boots and tie them.
That's it. There will be no help. No help this year.
So the kindergartners will be wearing their ski boots all day?
Yeah, pretty much.
Whatever it takes.
Put a little Velcro strapper in.
Yeah.
All right.
Darlene had a question in the chat, wanting to know who was Sonia. Gail, maybe you can.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Porter, she's our PE teacher.
Okay, thank you.
And she does see the kids face to face outside right now and has been most of the year doing PE outside.
Okay, thank you.
One other question regarding that. Sonia did send the numbers of the kids in each class. And Ellen and I were just assuming, I think it totaled 39. Yeah, remote kids don't come for gym, right? They're remote.
Right.
Okay, good. For distance learn.
Oh, yep. All right. Any other discussions on the Nordic program? I think it looks wonderful. Nope. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it
Thanks, everyone.
very much.
What a cool program.
So then we also have the ESSC program, and I have a draft for you to take a look at. Neil and I have met, and he's met with John, and we've met with the ESSC Board of Directors. And here we have a proposal where we believe that we can do the ESSC program. John Fischera has agreed to allow us to have full possession of the upstairs lodge. So we would be able to go up and sanitize the area and have only our students there. But that lodge space will be only used as a backup. We are skiing for a shorter period of time. It will be just 2 hours. And Black Mountain is not wanting to have all of the kiddos' bags and things in the lodge. So all of the bags and poles and skis will be left outside with a pop-up. I'm using, we're also doing away with one of the most important things is we're doing away with the color rankings of blue and purple and red and green and yellow. And we're keeping the kids together in their cohorts to ski, breaking each of the cohorts into 2 groups, the kind of beginners and then kiddos who can ski. So students who are able to ski are going to have to learn how to be patient with one another and how to wait and take turns and that kind of thing. There'll be teachers on duty in the lodge by the bathroom area to ensure that the students are coming and going on their own without the public being present, and are making sure that they wash and sanitize in and out. We're encouraging kiddos to carry sanitizer with them and snack with them because we're not going to allow any use of the snack bar. And we won't have them passing through the main lodge at all. As you know, the bathrooms are in an L and they can be accessed from the parking area. We can walk around the front by the rental shop and go right in and out of those side doors there. I am also, Neil and I work to identify possible community volunteers, but they won't necessarily come into the lodge with the students because I'll have staff members on duty there. The buses, both buses are available to move the students, and whoever parents can drive would be a help as well. That way we can reduce the numbers on the buses to below the 20 students that can be seated safely on the bus. So that way we can get most everybody up there. Kindergartners, as always, will not ski. And I'm going to give the first graders the choice of skiing or not. I'm a little concerned about the first graders. We haven't come down 100% on that because they need to be able to ride the lift without an adult. So if they can't get on and off the lift by themselves safely, they'll have to stay in the rope tow area, which might make some folks unhappy, but I hesitate to have young children on the lift by themselves. And I don't want them in close contact with adults that aren't part of their cohort.
I agree with you, Gail, on that. Yep.
Can you scroll back up a little bit, Kevin? I'm not sure if I missed anything and I don't have a paper copy here. Okay, restroom management, okay.
No, I think you got everything, Gail.
Yep, and ESSC has agreed, it's still an ESSC program, so all liability insurance is covered as usual. Assigned tables for the cohorts, and I'll have all my staff, if not skiing with students, up at the lodge to assist with keeping the kiddos distanced and safe and hand washing and all that.
What about students who may need to rent equipment?
They will be assigned rentals from Cranmore. Their parents will fill out the form and hopefully they get it right because we won't be taking the students down to Cranmore. Neil will pick up all the rental boots and skis and bring them back to students, and they'll be assigned those rentals for the season. Sometimes we've kept them at school too, depending on if the student has to ride the bus back and forth. The bus can't really take skis, but we have a ski rack right at school and we can leave them there if we need to. And as you can see, the students will be dressed at the mountain when they get on the bus. So there won't be that whole, let's all sit in the lodge and put our boots and hats and get our tickets. Everything will be handled outdoors. They'll get their tickets outdoors. They'll find their group outdoors and ski right from the time they get off the bus. And hopefully they'll ski the full 2 hours and won't need to even be inside.
Right. What time of day would this happen? Noon?
We're going to try to move them up a little bit earlier than noon because we're done at 2. So, I'm hoping to have them on the mountain at noon and done by 2. So that's 2 hours of skiing, which will help too with the cold, that they're not out there quite as long as they would have been.
Right. What happens if one of them gets cold and what? They can go up to the upstairs lodge, and the upstairs lodge is the blue room, correct?
Yes, something, I don't know exactly what they call it, but it is upstairs, and there are staff members upstairs, so the volunteers don't even really have to come upstairs with them. They can just send them up to the staff member that's on duty up there. There'll be 2 or 3 staff members up there. And we'll have cohort tables as well. Hand sanitizer and all that with us.
And what day of the week were we?
We're still gonna stick with Fridays.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, is making sure even some of the second graders, depending on their size, you know, unfortunately, to get on and off the chairlift by themselves, you know, they would probably have to, for me, I would say they'd have to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
With somebody, just because I know Black. And it is very nice of them to do that, to do all this. I think it's amazing to even try it. Some of the other kids are not having any ESSC experience this year. I think it sounds well thought out. Yep.
Good,
Anybody else have any input, questions?
Can you hear me now, Jen?
Now I can.
Yeah, sorry, I was having some severe technical difficulties there. It sounds like a great plan to me. Gail, have you had any feedback from parents about it yet?
I haven't shared it with parents yet. Other than the parents who are asking, I have heard from some parents who want to be sure that we're going to ski. But I haven't specifically sent out the plan until you folks looked at it and gave it your blessing, and we nailed down all the details. Neil, thank you to Neil. I know he's out there somewhere, but he's been going back and forth with John and the ESSC folks to help pull this all together.
I think that the fact that Jackson is rallying to make this happen for our students is really fantastic. I know that all of the moving parts will be thought out, as you all have thought out everything up until this point, really. You know, having seen Bartlett and, you know, Conway cancel their seasons, which is really hard, but also for those communities, probably the best, you know, what everyone made the decision that they needed to make. But I just appreciate that you all are, you know, giving all of this effort to try to see this happen for the kids. I'm curious if, so Jen, like your point to like a second grader that is maybe not super fluid in getting on and off the chair independently, will there be any volunteers this year, or will it be like how's that going to work?
We will need to use a few volunteers to keep the group sizes down and help, just for safety purposes, to have a second person should someone get hurt, or you know, every once in a while we do lose a student who goes down one trail while the group goes the other way, you know, so just staff for safety reasons. I think we need 2 people, and we don't have enough staff to do that. So Neil and I have reviewed the volunteer list and kind of picked a few folks to invite to volunteer. So it will be, the selection process will be more stringent than it has in the past. And part of what I want to be sure is that that person understands the importance of what they do after school hours as well, even though I can't tell them what to do, but I'd like to have the sense that they share our mission of keeping everybody safe while on the mountain. And that includes their personal habits.
Regarding the volunteers, I emailed 11 volunteers from last year. I've got 5 yeses back and 1 no so far. Just to give you an idea.
And Neil, if you need more, you'll just put out the call.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few out there that haven't responded yet, which I can chase up on. I think we need to look at how many we need.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. You know,
Right. And I'm just going to say, we haven't invited, I know we have some new families whose parents ski as well. We have not looked at any of them.
Yeah, I know we discussed, Gail, with the first graders, maybe dealing with those as we've done with the kindergartens in the past, in that the first graders can ski, but they have to supply their own volunteer, be it a parent or somebody that, so we don't have to, they're going to be the people that need the assistance, the first graders, the beginners. 'Cause in years past, although kindergarten isn't part of ESSC, John has invited them along. We've always said you have to supply your own volunteer, parent, grandparent, family friend, or whatever. Could we do that with the first graders?
Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't happen. And then I'm assuming, and just to be clear, that all of the volunteers will be given or talked to about our standards of, you know, what we're looking for as far as masking and them traveling in and out, or they themselves staying safe, you know, that type of thing.
Right. That's what I was talking about with kind of hand picking who we're asking.
And they still all have to go through the normal volunteer background checks and what have you that ESSC requires.
Right. Yeah.
That'll stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then could it be fair to say, if we got this up off the ground, we get up to black, and there's a little red flag going off for a number of people in leadership roles, and they say, you know what, this can't be safe enough, this isn't gonna quite work, that we pull the plug?
Sure. Yep. Or if our cases explode, or if we go remote, I mean, there's all kinds of situations where we might just say this isn't working, but we'd like to give it a shot if the conditions are good. Because as you all agree, the kids are good outside in the snow getting exercise, and they love the older kids in particular. The sixth graders are like begging me on a regular basis, please, please, we've got to ski. So
Yeah.
it's been part of their school experience their whole lives. So it would be sad to not at least try it for them.
Right. And I would also, because we have several new students, I would include anybody who's not skied before, who wants to ski. You know, if they need one-on-one help, then we have to figure out a plan for them. Because obviously they're not going to be able to necessarily get on and off the chairlift the first few times safely.
Right.
And they wouldn't be in first grade. And I know we've always gone out of our way to make them feel welcome to skiing and part of an older group. But at this point, we just got to be safe. So, so I'd look to Neil to help with that, you know, and how to finesse that. You can do it, Neil. I know you can.
Yeah.
No, this is great. I would like
What are
to
you
see
doing
those
on Friday afternoons, Jen?
I love to come up and ski.
There you go. There's another volunteer for you, Neil.
Yeah, got about 21 weeks as well, so.
Yeah, I'd like to see us try and move this forward if the rest of the board is okay with that too. I think they are, so. Anybody else? Okay. Good luck.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
Jen?
All right, board member issues. Sorry.
Jen?
Yes, Jerry.
Before we move on, I apologize. My microphone wasn't working on my second laptop after my first one crashed. Is it okay if we go back to the COVID update for a moment? I'd just like to clarify a couple of things, or have some stuff clarified.
Yeah.
It was my understanding originally that we had authorized Kevin to call school when he felt it was necessary. And that's who calls the schools. We don't have to have an emergency board meeting or anything. It's Kevin that does. Now, how he does that, if he consults with Gail or whoever he consults with to make that decision, is perfectly acceptable. But I'd just like to be really clear on how our process works. It's Kevin who is authorized to call the Jackson school to go full remote when it's necessary, is my understanding of it from the original discussion we had about it.
Yes. That is also mine. Kevin, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and just like with the weather, and I appreciate that, I do need that autonomy to be able to make that call quickly, swiftly. It would just be if the board said, hey, the absolute, if you get one case, you're closing down, then that would be a decision that you make. But I did not hear that tonight. I think that I did hear very clearly that if I feel as though with my administrative team, the decisions need to close down, whether it's for 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, or 2 weeks, that obviously I would work in consultation with a larger group, but that authority does come with the office.
And I'm very happy with that. I would just mention that to me it did change. I think that we had given a pretty clear directive from the start that we would shut down with one case, and I think it's good that we've changed that. But I think that was the case from the beginning anyway. Even though I don't think we made a formal motion to do it, but I think that was obviously everyone's understanding of what we would do. But I'm glad that it's changed to the current situation anyway.
Right.
I'm a little bit more on the fence about it changing. I know that it brought peace of mind to a lot of families as they've seen other schools in our community have cases. I've definitely heard it resonated in the community here, saying like, "Oh, I'm so glad that Jackson would be closed tomorrow." So,
and I would feel the same way. And we talked about this before. I felt the same way, but seeing the SAU 9 and the administration in action over the last few cases that we've had, and that they haven't exploded into other cases, they've been contained and eradicated per se. I do feel a little more comfortable saying that if we feel that we can contain the spread to a cohort, that we can continue on with the rest of the school, going to school. And I would leave that to Kevin and the administrative team based on who the case is and, all of those nuances that go with whatever it is. But I do feel comfortable that Kevin would make the right decision and not expose us, or the rest of the team. So, and would be brought in. So I feel comfortable moving forward with a slight change of plan. Anybody else? No? Okay. Good. All right. Board member issues. Committee reports, facilities committee. It's a lovely report. So Micah and Jerry, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Micah, for putting that together and starting that process again. I think it's pretty important that we move it forward to really determine how we can best utilize the spaces that we have.
Yeah, you bet. It's good to have, I don't know what happened to my video. It's good to have it back in action. We have a really good laid out plan. Does anyone have any questions on it?
I just have one question. I think this is awesome. Just as far as finance goes, I know we had voted in under a warrant article some money to do this, but there is no budget on.
Yeah, not in the notes. I think because it had already been done. So we're just basically we move forward what had already been voted on. So that's what's happening with this initial report. But I can amend those minutes to list that.
Yeah, just in case one of the community members is reading that, they know that this is already paid for.
So Jen, if I did that, can I just share that back with you, and then you can put it in the right place? Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. That's all I had, but I think this is great. Thank you for resurrecting this and getting it moving, guys. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. Second committee, Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Committee. It's a nice name. Okay.
I wrote the minutes for those too.
I had a feeling. They look very similar.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions on what's happening here? We're having another meeting at the end of this week. We have surveys that were just sent out to all of the staff and teachers at the grammar school, which we're hoping we're going to have answers to, and then have some different ways to move forward with the work. So we'll have more updates at the next board meeting. We just sort of really had liftoff for our past 2 meetings.
I think it's great. I would, based on the minutes, I was actually part of, not in its entirety, but the Portrait of a Learner. Mm-hmm. I know it might behoove you to reach out to Katie Wilson at some point soon and bring her into the fold. She has not been part of any of these meetings anywhere in the SAU to my recollection. And you may find that there is a fair share of crossover information as far as into the SAU New England Portrait of a Learner, which was extensively worked on for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
So I would bring her in because she has a lot of the things that you're speaking about in your committee already moving forward across the SAU 9. So it would just make sense to actually invite her into the meeting.
Yeah, and we've, excuse me, in the SAU-wide committee, we've toggled into that more. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion, Jen. We'll look at it as we move forward with the Jackson piece and how it best integrates.
Yeah, it just, don't want to do double work anywhere, but I think it's great.
Does anyone else have questions about?
Oh, it doesn't say who attended the JDEI meeting. There's no attendance on there.
Awesome. Is there a format for minutes? It might be maybe in Jerry's master document, a standard format.
There is. It wasn't. Yeah, I don't know.
I can send you a template, and I take too many. I can. I'll send you a copy of one that I did recently.
Lovely, thank you.
And then I had another question in reference to the goals session. How to have the best materials in the building, so-and-so. Just making sure we share an updated history of social studies and so on. If it's not SAU-wide, and then as far as the curriculum, making sure that it encompasses all the things that we have our students tested on as well. So I know this is further out than you are with this, but just food for thought.
Yeah, it's pretty all encompassing and can continue to be.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks for that.
All right. No, this is great. Thank you. 2 committee meetings. That's wonderful.
I would have gotten a third in had our board meeting been next week. We could have really rocked it for everyone.
I know, I saw that you have another one at like Thursday, so that's awesome. Okay, I do have one committee facility. One thing I'd like to update, it's just minor, and it was brought up by a citizen, is on where we say salute to the flag, we should be saying Pledge of Allegiance. It's just semantics, but if we could change that in the future. Kevin, I don't know if we need to make a big deal about it or not, but it's just verbiage.
And
Go ahead, Kevin. I mean, Jerry.
I would actually mention that we actually never adopted that into our agenda.
Is that still pending out there?
Yeah, we had tabled that.
I like it in there. We're not doing it right now.
When we kind of redid the format right before I feel like we did the pledge maybe like once before we went remote for our meeting.
Yep.
Yes, I think we did.
Yep. But it should be Pledge of Allegiance, not salute to the flag, regardless if it's in there or not.
I wasn't part of the board when this was all. I feel like I missed this piece of it. Jerry, what were you saying about the fact that it hasn't been voted on, or what's?
Well, it was on the agenda, I think, in January of this year. And I had tabled it because I do have some issues with it, but and we had never discussed it again since then. And then it just had showed up in the agenda as though we had adopted that, but we actually never did officially adopt that.
I think all of SAU has it in their agenda, right, Kevin?
Well, the agenda is actually a policy, and by policy, so I can go back and double check, that I thought it was adopted, but I may be mistaken.
I know it wasn't actually. I mean, I did go back a few months ago and to look at it again because I was surprised when it actually showed up because I did want to have a bigger discussion about that. But it's so we never did officially adopt it. So we'd have to if we wanted to put it in there, I guess. But
I'd be curious what the rest of SAU is, so.
Where did it come from? Like, why was it added in when we weren't doing it before?
No, I think we were doing it before and then it fell off somewhere, so we put it back on.
no, we were never doing it. We had never done it for as long as I've been on the board, and it had gotten put in there.
I think that was me. I wanted it in there. But I am curious to see what the rest of SAU does and what the policy.
Does, Kevin, does New Hampshire still have it in there? I believed it was a state law that the students, that we did it in school on a daily basis. Is that still part of the New Hampshire regs?
I can take a look.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
All right, then we have, thank you, Kevin. We'll wait for further intel.
Yeah.
Do we have any other board discussion at this time?
There was just a question, Jen, I had put in the comments. I had a parent text me that couldn't quite get the chat to work. Gail, regarding how many students Kristen can support in her distance cohort.
It kind of depends a little bit on the grade level. You know, obviously more kindergarten, first graders are needing much more individualized attention, but somewhere between 12 and 15, the same as a regular class size.
I think your point, Kate, is a really good one, though. You know, and that's why, as Gail starts to think about what's happening in January, some of those things may help shift the level of support that's needed to either support face-to-face and or distance learning. So you're right. If you get 10 4th through 6th graders and then another 10 K through 2, that may change the allocation of the resources with the teachers related to it. Kristen, hats off to her. She's doing K through 6 and somehow keeping it all straight, but it's definitely different than if you were to say a smaller age group, all at the same time. So that's really good point to make.
And with the K1 cohort also, needing a teacher come Christmas time, and also being really technically one child above our cohort maximum. That's also, we're kind of, I think it sounds like some of the cohorts are kind of pushing it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Good point. I'll figure it out when we get the new numbers in.
Gail, question, just thinking about kind of back to ESSC. Do you have, we have the support of the board with the caveat that, like, if something isn't, doesn't quite feel right, that we'll kind of pull back and resign to having tried it. Do you have the support of the staff? Like, are all the staff on board to kind of go to the mountain, kind of to make it work?
I wouldn't say everybody's jumping with joy about being at the mountain rather than being back at school planning, which is, in my mind, it's their assignment for Fridays. I'm not forcing anyone to ski or do whatever else, but they're responsible for students during the school day. So we are needing to cover the bathroom, and we are needing to get up and cover the cohorts, and we are needing to get the kids ready to ski. It's just part of the job in working in Jackson. Skiing's always been something we've supported somehow, whether it's snowshoeing with the kindergartners back at school, or whether it's doing bathroom duty at the mountain at the lodge. So I think in my mind, it's just the professional responsibility to get the kiddos what they need.
Thank you, and I appreciate that from everybody, really. Kate, any other question there?
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I kind of jumped around there a little bit, but I appreciate it.
That's what this moment's for. Jerry, I think you and I have something that needs to be done. We are going to meet with the select board and the trustees and invite Lily over to a meeting as well, whether we do that via Zoom or in person, socially distant. We should set that up for this coming month. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know when the trustees meet, like, or how often they meet. Selectmen meet basically every other Tuesday. So let me run it by the select board and see when they'd be willing to have a discussion about that and bring in the
Trustees?
trustees of the trust fund. The selectmen meet in person and by Zoom every other week. So it certainly could be a Zoom meeting, probably with that many people. I don't think they like having lots of people in the town office building, but they can do it by Zoom. So let me run it by them and see when they can facilitate that for us.
Thank you. I appreciate you utilizing your connections. Thank you.
Everybody has connections. The two Julies there are pretty good at arranging things and facilitating stuff.
Thank you. All right, that's all. Anybody else have any other board member issues at this moment? I think that's all mine. All right, so next meeting, December 21st, 6 p.m. Our school district meeting is Thursday, March 4th at 7 p.m. as well as our budget hearing is February 4th at 6 p.m. School board goal setting review, which we have not.
Jen?
Yes, Jerry.
We should make motions for the district meeting and the budget hearing.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to set the school district meeting Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at
Second.
the Whitney Community Center.
I can second that. Would it have to be depending on, can there be like a asterisk of what if we are meeting in person, it will be in the Whitney. But if in March we are still meeting remotely, we will. How's that work?
The motion was to meet at the Whitney, and I think for now we pretty much need to plan for that. I don't know for the district meeting kind of what the rules are going to apply as far as remote might be. It may be that we actually have to meet in person, and I think that for now that's what we have to plan for. So I'm going to make the motion as stands, and then if we have to modify that later, we certainly can. We'll have plenty of time to do that through February. So I think that for now we just have to plan on having it at the Whitney Center.
Second.
All right. Am I on? Yeah. All those in favor, Jen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
and Darlene.
Yes.
You want to do the budget hearing too, Jerry?
Yeah, that we don't technically have to have a motion for, but we probably should. So I'll make a motion to set the budget hearing for February 4th, 2021. And that we can probably do remotely, I'm assuming.
That'd be great.
So we can leave that at that, as such for now.
Okay.
Second?
Second. Okay.
All those in favor, Jen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
and Darlene.
Yes.
I think you're right, Jerry. I think the budget hearing, you could probably do the remote piece, but the district meeting, I think, you'll have to have a face-to-face unless the powers that be change those rules, but it'll be interesting for sure.
I'm really good at cafe lighting outdoor spaces, and we have a really beautiful pavilion. Just saying.
Absolutely.
What it'll probably come down to is that it'll probably be up to the school moderator to set the rules as far as how that meeting works. At this point in time, it hit kind of right after town meetings had already occurred, so we kind of got lucky there. And I don't know that the state's actually figured it out entirely how town meetings are going to work and how school district meetings are going to work, but I think they're planning for now to have them in person, and it will be up to the moderator of the meeting to decide how the meeting gets run and how to be set up. So we'll have plenty of time to figure all those things out. But yeah, Kate, you're right that we should plan to have as much either outdoor or social distancing or what in place, and we can the community center is probably the best place to do all of that. So unless the state changes and we can do it remote, then I think for now we'll have to plan on having it in person, because it'd be really hard to take roll call votes for a remote meeting. But like I said, we'll get it all figured out well before then. So
Great. Thanks, Jerry. School board goal setting review. So I think I'll take this one and work with Sasha on this and see where we are with setting up now that she's a little bit more available, and get this back on our docket and work with Gail on a time frame. All right. Any other input on that one right now? Okay, so you'll be hearing from me. All right, then we have committee assignments. We'd like to review these as well, and we would need to add 2 subcommittees here. The Jackson, oh, I messed up the initials, JDEI committee, I believe, and then the SAE.
We're calling it the Jackson DEI committee right now. So diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Couldn't read my own writing, sorry. And then another one for the SAU, Social Justice Steering Committee.
Yes.
All right. So we have some spaces and we have a new member.
Jen, can we pull up the current committee list?
Okay.
Is that possible?
I don't know if Kevin has it, but I'm looking at it myself. It was in our April 20th packet, if anybody has their Gmail available.
And I know the Whitney Center group has asked again whose name to put on their agenda.
Yes, we have Darlene on that one already.
Thanks, Jen. I unmuted myself, so I'm all ready.
I have the list in front of me. If you want, I can scan it in real quick and then pop it up, or I can just tell you who's on there.
We can start off. We have the Budget Committee.
Yeah.
And right now we have, I believe Jerry and Micah are on
Sure.
that.
Yep.
Okay, then we have the Policy Committee is still myself with Kate.
Yep.
The Joint Boards, we have Jerry, Micah, and myself. Manifest, we have
I would
myself.
love for the joint boards, think about if Darlene, if you have any interest in taking that one over with the 2 new DEI social justice committees. I'm feeling a little sideways. Not to put you on the spot.
It's an easy one. It's an easy one, darling.
An easy one.
Which one?
The Joint Boards,
Oh, the joint ones. That's fine.
okay. That's a good one to be on to really, to learn a lot too.
But Darlene, that one meets once a month on a Thursday evening and just really
Hey,
consistently.
My nights are free. I don't put anyone to bed.
Thank you.
I'll take your life any day right now.
We have Manifest, is really all of us right now, but myself and Jerry.
I
Anybody
can
else?
do that if you want.
Fine. Yeah, I mean,
I'll be on that, and then just I know that it's my chore to do. I'm happy to.
we do have an opening in the Bus Committee. Right now, that was Keith and a vacant spot. There's nothing active right now going on. If anybody wants to.
Bus, the bus,
Bus Committee, yes.
sure.
We wouldn't send you in there alone, Darlene. If there's an
Oh.
issue that arises, somebody will go with you.
We're talking about the big yellow thing?
Yep, the big bus, BUS, buses.
Okay, I'm good for that one.
All right. Curriculum review, which is not necessarily an active committee at this point, is Jerry by himself and a vacancy.
I'll take that.
All right.
Sorry, Jen, which one was that?
The curriculum,
Curriculum,
Okay, thank you.
Unless you want that, Kate.
Kate's on the
Kate?
special ed review.
No, I'll do curriculum.
Yep, great.
I don't
Thanks
think
for-
curriculum has met in years and probably won't.
Okay, well,
meet again.
hey, Jerry, I'm a real quick learner. I kind of heard that.
And I will keep special ed. Kevin or Jen or somebody in the know. In my kind of 2.5 years now on the board, I have not met for that. I was on my understanding that it was like because of kind of an as needed. Is there something, should I do anything in the
No.
meantime? Like, okay.
No,
Just
just
call,
Kevin.
just jump.
there is an SAU 9 curriculum committee that approves all the competencies now. So we'll make sure, Jerry, you get involved with that, because that does have representation from all the different schools. Special ed review, I'm not aware of, maybe Gail, you can weigh in on that in Jackson, the history behind that.
I don't think we've ever had a meeting that I'm aware of.
I'm happy to also just send a note to Pam too and just tell her that it's me and if anything comes up.
You could send a note to Pam and ask her if it's a valid committee anymore. I would ask there first, and then we'll go from there. And then we have the Joint Loss Management Committee Safety that is open at this point.
We
Did you-
do at the school bi-monthly. Jess Della Valle used to come when we do our, 50310 or whatever the name of that initiative is from the hospital. And so
Right.
we do some nutrition and special activities with kiddos. So that is, and then there's an SAU wide one as well. I think Jess did both of them, didn't she, Kevin?
Mhm.
Yeah, so joint loss also, to your slips, trips, falls.
Right.
Make sure that if you have your emergency plan in place, that they're kind of involved with that as well. So you do have that local committee meeting by policy and by law. You have to have that joint loss committee in place. That's a mandatory committee. So there should be somebody who will sit in at least twice a year on that one.
I will sit in on that, Darlene.
Right. Thank you, Darlene.
Yep.
The New Hampshire School Board Association delegate, it says as available. Are we still good with that? Right, okay. The
New
Kennett-
school board, just for new school board members, what that is the New Hampshire School Board Association does look for resolutions. So if the Jackson School Board wanted to support a resolution or put something forward, let's say your DEI committee really has a resolution that you want to bring forward, you can do that. They do have delegates meetings annually that you can attend as a school board member. So it really is up to the board. You will get model resolutions or a list of resolutions that will go out to you folks, so you can feel free to weigh in on any of those. But that does come up annually.
We'll leave it as is. The Kennett Student Handbook Review. I'm fine staying on that. And the SAU 9 Executive Board, I'm on that. Facilities, we just have Micah, we have Jerry. Is that you back on there, or?
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry is very back on that.
Yep. Career Technical Advisory Council, I can stay on that because I'm already on one or two of those. Then we have the Bartlett Curriculum Committee. That's myself, and our school board member named Vacant is on here. So it's asking for one more person. So I don't know if we want to have, Jerry, you want to do that again for the curriculum review
Sure.
for Bartlett, since you're on it for, okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
They follow the same, they have the same SAU-wide curriculum basically anyway.
Makes sense to be on it.
And what's the difference between the SAU 9 board and the executive board?
The executive board is made up of the chairs of all the boards.
Got
So to be honest with you, Kate, really what they do is they're kind of like, there aren't a whole lot of subcommittees that the SAU board has. So any personnel type issues will go to like the executive board prior to going to the full board. It just allows for representation. They get a first look at the personnel policies. They get a first look at the budget, and they take a look at some of those things. And if there's any other, personnel type issues, just instead of having 27 people in a room, sometimes it's hard to get a lot of work done. The executive board can then become more comfortable and more informed and bring up a lot of the questions representing each one of the districts. They are a non-decision making group, but they're a recommending body.
Thank you.
Bartlett Policy Committee, I'm fine with staying on that. We've removed the Bartlett Technology Committee. Keith was on it. I don't even know when they met or if they do meet. Kevin, do you know?
Bartlett Technology?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to meet several times because their technology was lagging so far behind that most recently they have had a couple of meetings. But again, there's the SAU 9 Technology Committee that does take place. And I know that Allison from Jackson sits in on that. But I will see what the deal is with that. For so long, I think it was in technology has really kind of brought things together. So a lot of these little pockets of things that have taken place historically started to go away.
I don't know if we need it or if Allison can represent us at that point. The personnel is Kate and Micah. Are you folks still comfortable with that, ladies?
That works.
Okay.
And Kevin, I'm going to respond, Micah, to your,
Cool.
and then we'll set a time, Kevin. Thank you. I wanted to wait for Micah. Her schedule is different than mine.
Library, Kate, you're still on that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Whitney, I have Darlene written in here from my last meeting. I think because of her contacts or something. You, Darlene, you're still comfortable with representing us for the Whitney Center? For the Whitney trustees?
Yes, Jen.
Thank you. Action plan, I have Jerry and Micah.
Huh? Wait, what plan?
Action plan. And you know what? I couldn't tell you what that was.
I don't think we need an action plan. Action happens in all the other committees.
Micah's currently actioned out.
Well, historically, that was the board staff combined goal setting sessions we had every year. And then we had an action plan that monitored the implementation of those said goals. So we haven't been following that protocol. So the action plan doesn't exist.
There you go.
We'll just,
I think that's because, Gail, you've done actually a really good job of kind of facilitating that as a whole, that it really hasn't been necessary to kind of have a separate piece to it, I guess, if you will. I think that's kind of why it's probably gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
good, Jerry. Okay, so we're just gonna put Gail in there. Jackson DEI committee, we have Micah on there and Kate as well. Yep.
Stay put. Thank you.
Thank you, girls, ladies, women, people. I appreciate it. SAU School Justice Steering Committee. Yep.
That's me.
Okay. Would you like someone else with you?
No, I mean, if someone wants to be a part of it, they're welcome to come on board, but no.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that covers all of them. That's all that I have on my list at this point.
Whew.
All right. All right, back to the agenda. Any other citizen comments at this time? Anybody stuck with their mute button? Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right, we've signed the manifest. At least I signed them. I think someone else must have. Lily, did someone else sign too? We're good? She's still on?
I got it.
Kate did.
Kate did it.
Kate did.
The
Great.
manifest committee executed.
And we have no non-public session, so calling the meeting, adjourn the meeting, motion. Someone?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.